Good morning. Welcome, everyone. So good to see you all here today. My name is Amy Evans, and I am so glad to be here with you all today. I am a 60-ish-year-old white woman with blondish hair. I'm wearing my favorite blue dress today, and we're just happy to have you here. This summer, as we're transitioning from Reverend Alex to Reverend Sanjay, members of the congregation, led by the worship committee, and guests are leading our services. Today, we are honored to welcome Reverend Kevin Mann. Reverend Kevin was ordained by the First Unitarian Church of Oakland just recently, October 1st, 2023. We got to celebrate the ordination of Lynn and Wendy when they were here, and that was such a big deal and really exciting. So, the October 1st also happened to be the first day of both Filipino American and LGBTQ history months. Wow. He serves as a chaplain at Sequoia Hospital, as faculty advisor at Star King School for the Ministry, as a consultant for the Partnership for UU Church of the Philippines. We've actually had a visiting Zoom minister from the Philippines. Reverend Kevin also founded DRUM, which is the Diverse Revolutionary UU Multicultural Ministries, that's a mouthful, the region BIPOC UU community, and they gather quarterly in retreats. I believe Reverend Sanjay has been pretty active. Yeah, definitely. She's very active in that drum group. So when she comes, I'm sure she's going to tell us all about it. Yes. All right. I wanted to thank our welcomers, Jan and Cindy. Remember, we're all welcomers. Be kind to one another and say hi to visitors, but don't overwhelm them. If it's your first or second time attending, please accept one of our visitor packets. It's about both this church and about the UU organization in general. I'm going to say hi to everybody on YouTube or Zoom. Oftentimes somebody will turn on the closed captions. If that needs to be you today, please turn on the closed captions. And we want you to feel like you're here in person. If you need a bulletin or order a service to follow along, you can go to mysfuu.org/worship on our homepage. You'll be able to see it. If you don't like to do that, you can just go out in the lobby and take a picture. We have an order service hanging up out there. We also have sight impaired and hearing assistance tools on the back. We also have a few things to know here. If you haven't been here before, find your way around. I don't think there's a lot of, I didn't put any highlights of the e-beacon. There's always stuff going on here, although it's a little quiet right now in the summer. But we do have our weekly meetings, etc. Suzanne? In 2 weeks, oh yeah, in 2 weeks, we have a big day on August 18th. Reverend Sanjay will be here as a visitor. So we'll be able to meet her, and then she starts officially in pulpit on September 1st. That's Labor Day weekend. And immediately after service, we have a committee council meeting. In the past, many of you have been around a long time, know committee council meetings as sort of boring, report out, what is each committee doing. We are trying to turn that more into a leadership council. So we invite anybody who wants to be part of leading this congregation to stay after church on the 18th and participate with us. So we want to emphasize or focus on how we as church leaders can communicate better with the broader congregation, because we did hear that a lot last year. Like, we need to hear more. What's going on? What's going on? So we're going to get better at that. Right now, as we're between ministers, if you have pastoral care needs, 4 of our our members have stepped up. Bonnie Dahl, who's here today, Burl Main, Mary Piet, and Vicki, who's also here, are happy to help with any pastoral care needs. If you don't know who they are, please talk to me after the service. Hi Bonnie. Oh, Karen Morse too, yes. Karen's always wonderful to help with pastoral care needs. Thank you. Here at SFUU, It is our purpose to nurture the individual spiritual path of each person and build a common faith based on shared core values, which include recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of all people and the quest for peace with justice and equity in our community and the world. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, we welcome you into this community of searchers, seekers, and learners. In order to be fully present in our service, please make sure that you've silenced your digital device, and please settle into this space as we prepare to journey together and connect to one another and to all that is in this time and space. Before we start, I do want us to acknowledge that we are gathered on the ancestral land of the Nisenan and Southern Maidu people. And in that regard, we are honored to share that sacred space.
And now we have our call to worship. Our call to worship is from queer, multiracial, Afro-Latina woman minister and president of our Unitarian Universalist Association, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt. She says this about our faith: Unitarian Universalism has a vital, liberating message for our time. Our nation and denomination are experiencing challenges in a time of significant division, change, and radicalization. But Reverend Sophia says that together, I know we can serve one another, organize for justice, widen the circle of concern, and collectively imagine new ways forward, new ways in community, new ways of growing spiritually. Speaking about the recent passage of the UUA Article II, Reverend Sophia said this: "This is a historic moment for Unitarian Universalism. As we move our living tradition to focus on these shared values that will promote liberation, radical inclusion, communal care, both within our church, within ourselves, and within our society." Welcome to church this morning.
Awesome. All right, we're going to do the chalice lighting. Can't sit down here. All right.
Our chalice lighting words are from Reverend Richard Gilbert, titled "We Bid You Welcome," and are in the gray hymnal. We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirit seeking rest,
Who come with troubles that are too much with you,
who come hurt and afraid,
We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart,
who come with anticipation in your step.
who come proud and joyous,
We bid you welcome, who are seekers of a new faith,
who come to probe and explore.
who come to learn,
We bid you welcome, who enter this hall as a homecoming,
who have found here room for your spirit.
who find in this people a family.
Whoever you are, whatever you are,
Wherever you are on your journey,
we bid you welcome.
Okay, let me light this chalice.
As Amy lights the chalice, please rise if you are willing and able, and join us in our opening hymn, number 121, "We'll Build a Land."
Please note there is a little change in the lyrics, so if you're looking at the book,
Instead of brothers and sisters, we're saying all our relations. So all our relations is the change.
All right, I'm going to invite Joan Harris, our Director of Religious Education, up for our story of all ages. If we have anybody who thinks they're a kid, even if they're not anymore, technically, you're welcome to join Joan up here, but otherwise we'll just listen in.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joan Harris, as was mentioned, and I'd like to start off by a short video clip.
Good Trouble by Key. Sometimes it's good to get into trouble. It's good when you are protecting your friends. It's good when you are showing that you care about people's lives. It's good when you are speaking out against things that are harmful. It's good when you are standing up for being treated unfairly. It's good when you know you can help make a change in the world. John Lewis was a freedom fighter who got into a lot of good trouble. He got in trouble because he was fighting for good causes. Because he knew that getting into good trouble would create necessary change. And necessary change has to happen in order for Black and Indigenous people to be free. Which is why he kept getting into good trouble until he couldn't anymore. Now it's our turn. We can get into good trouble just like John Lewis did. Because good trouble is necessary trouble. And that's what it takes to get free.
So,
Good trouble.
I wrote a little story, and I'm going to try not to read the whole thing, but I don't want to make any mistakes, or forget anything. So we just saw a little clip about John Lewis, and he was a well-known congressman, and he's well known for his civil rights activism. He passed away in 2020. And at that time, there were many news articles written about how much of an inspiration he was to others. In fact, the magazine wrote about how he was an inspiration to us, meaning everyone. And Barack Obama wrote, he inspired generations. We have John Lewis's quote, "Get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and help redeem the soul of America." It's a widely repeated phrase in activism, and it often inspires people to do things that are not in their comfort level. John Lewis was raised in rural Alabama, and he was changed profoundly when he went on a trip with his uncle to Buffalo, New York. During that trip, he saw diversity that he never witnessed in Alabama. When he returned home, he then knew he wanted to make changes. The timing for him was perfect It was during the Civil Rights Movement, starting with Brown versus Board of Education, the bus boycott, and the leadership of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. inspired John Lewis. Now, those events miraculously took place before I was born. I grew up in Loomis, and I don't really remember learning about the Civil Rights Movement in elementary school, and I'm sure I wasn't really paying attention in high school. But years later, as I was an older student in college in the late 90s, I became a little bit more interested. And between high school and college, I had a lot of different jobs. One of them was as a long-haul truck driver. And during that experience as a long-haul truck driver, I learned that the United States had many different regions, geographically, politically, socially, economically, and ethnically. I believed I was changed profoundly by one trip to the South. I was delivering hot dogs from Livingston, California, to a plant that would make those hot dogs into corn dogs in Demopolis, Alabama. On that trip, I learned that there was still unofficial or unspoken segregation. I learned that Black folks were treated differently in the workplaces. I encountered, the men I encountered, Black men I encountered, I noticed were careful about what they said to me and how they interacted with me. I learned that there were restaurants patronized by Black folks and restaurants patronized by white folks. And most surprisingly, I learned that there were white cemeteries and Black cemeteries. I often spoke with my white friends about that experience, and as time developed with the development of social media, I believe it became more apparent to others and people like me who have been sheltered from issues of race relations, how different the experiences are between, or differences between what white people experience and what Black people experience, or people of color. And as time passed, with the help of social media and TV, I learned about Black Lives Matter. And it became obvious to me that this movement was very important. I learned then about Black Lives Matter Sacramento, and I met its co-founder, Tanya Faison. The more I watched her, followed her work, and have come to call her friend, the more I learned about racism as an institution, my own racism, and Black liberation. Tanya has been an inspiration to me, and now Article II and the changes in the Unitarian Universalist Association, with those changes, we are being inspired as a religious group. So I ask you, has there been anyone who has inspired you?
All right. If we have any kids going to class, we'll sing our recessional song, Go Now in Peace. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you every day you may go.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a responsive reading about Article II that you all get to participate in.
So what we're about to do together, I'm really excited about. We're going to be reading the exact text that was passed in June at the virtual General Assembly that committed our 1,000 congregations to a new covenant. So this is our new covenant. Last time this was updated was 1987, which was kind of a long time ago for a living tradition, right? So let's when you read this, embody it. Embody what these words mean. This was the work of years and decades of fellow UUs across this country. So I just think it's really important. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation, and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love.
Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence with reverence for the great web of life, and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect the earth and all things from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships with care and respect, mutuality and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect.
Justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive.
We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions with our congregations, our associations, and society at large. Transformation. We adapt to a changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian Universalist heritages. Never complete and never perfect.
Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope.
We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Equity. We declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Blessed be.
Welcome, Article II. Blessed be.
Thank you for bringing that to us, Reverend Kevin. All right, we're going to move into our joys and concerns. Each Sunday, we pause for this time of sharing. Sharing with each other helps build this community. Because this is a welcoming community where we find connection, spiritual community where we find meaning, this sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. We take this time to reflect on our joys and sorrows and acknowledge the mutual support of our community. Kia and David Hatch have a joy. They are celebrating 59 years of marriage on the 7th. Kia says it continues to be a ride. Also, after church today is our monthly celebration of Love Day. Just because we love you, because there's always a birthday and anniversary, please stay after church and share a cake with us. Let me see if there's anything. Yeah, let's see. Oh, we have a joy about Reverend Kevin's visit today. Thank you so much for coming out from the Bay Area. Stinking hot. I also want to personally say words of compassion and concern for everyone affected by all these fires across the western United States. If any of you have the app, what's it called, Watch Duty, and you pull it out, and the number of fires across the West are just stunning. But I also want to particularly focus on our neighbors in Butte, Tehama, Plumas, and Shasta counties. May we be blessed with some early rain this fall to quell those fires once and for all. I also want to do what we do weekly and reflect on all of those suffering from all the wars in Gaza, Ukraine, and other places where war is being waged. Let us reflect on those here in our own backyard suffering from the effects of the weather, food insecurity, and racial injustices. I'm going to read a poem by Michel Legrave. We, you and I, are in between right now, in between what was and what will be, in between who we are and who we will become, in between letting go and embracing, in between saying hello and saying goodbye. In between this, it's a thing. In between this is a time of fullness, a time of anticipation, a time of hope, a time of worry, a time of sadness. In between this is a time of waiting, waiting for news, waiting for departure, waiting for arrival, waiting for death, waiting for life. In between this is a time of transformation, a time of reflection, a time of action, a time of growing, a time of becoming.
Will you enter into a spirit of prayer with me? Let our collective joys and sorrows wash over us and remind us of the beauty of our interconnection. Center your body, your mind, and your spirit into this place, this hour, these people. God of justice, guide us towards that promised land that we seek, as our beloved Unitarian Universalist faith strives to be a living tradition and respond to the needs of this time, this place. God of many names, during stormy times like these, remind us that we have a life-saving message in our liberal religious identity, a life-saving message. The cries of the world demand our full presence. May our UU communities be a safe harbor in the storm of interlocking oppressions. May we be a sanctuary for our lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer siblings. May we be a balm against the sins of settler colonialism, a refuge from both Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. May our churches be a spiritual home where the immigrant is welcome, where non-English speakers are welcome, where the deaf, blind, and disabled communities are welcome and fully able to access all of what we do. May we be a place of connection for all who walk, who roll, who move through our doors seeking rest, seeking the warmth of hope, the light of compassion, and the depth of spiritual community. As our Article II guides us, may the light of justice be our flame. May the peace of equity bring collective liberation. May we cultivate transformation in ourselves, our congregations, and our communities. May pluralism reveal to us many paths up the same mountain. As interdependence binds us all to each. May generosity flow like water, leaving any thoughts of scarcity behind. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on this journey called life, know this: there is a love that holds us all together, a sacred, unbreakable web of life. Our tradition tells us that our liberation is bound to one another. There is no other way. Amen, and blessed be.
We're going to take a brief moment of silence, and Patty will bring us back to this time and place.
Good morning, Sierra Foothills Unitarian Universalists. What an honor it is to be with you this morning. Thank you for having me. I do live in Oakland, but my parents live in Sacramento, and so I have my dad, Alan, my mom, Edna, and my sister, Tish. So it was great to have them come along, and it got to be a 30-minute drive, not an hour-and-a-half drive, so thanks you for that. What an honor it is to be with you this morning. Thank you to your outgoing minister, Reverend Alex, and your incoming minister, Reverend Sanjay, for the invitation to preach. Both of those ministers have been key to founding Drum Bay Area. Both Reverend Alex and Reverend Sanjay have been to we've had 5 BIPOC retreats for Unitarian Universalists in the past year. Each retreat has had over 30 to 40 people across multiple congregations, and we're actually in a place to be launching Drum, California. So we'll be launching a People of Color statewide retreat network for UUs, and that is in large part in thanks to your Reverend Alex and Reverend Sanjay. So I thank you for both of them, both of those extraordinary ministers. Thank you also to our worship associate, Amy, your religious educator, Joan, to Patricia for your gifts of music, to John and Suzanne with the tech, and so many people that make this place a beacon of liberal religion every single Sunday. This morning I have some heaviness in my heart because there are still, after 300 days, bombs dropping on Gaza, American-made bombs dropping on refugee tents. In the same time that climate change and fires are raging, and the same time that our politics are divided, and things like Project 2025 threaten the very foundations of American democracy. I hear the words of John Lewis, the late Black civil rights representative icon. I hear his words in my ear. Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. Our struggle is the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble. Necessary trouble. John Lewis's call to get in good trouble reminds me of the best that we can be as Unitarian Universalists as we struggle to bend that arc towards justice and dismantle all legacies of oppression and white supremacy culture. Being a UU means being part of something bigger than oneself, with a long-term vision of justice, equity, and transformation rooted in collective liberation. Being a member of this church is not easy. Being a member of this church means doing the hard internal work and external work to challenge oppression in all its forms. Being a Unitarian Universalist means confronting head-on how privilege and oppression shape the air we breathe and the systemic institutions that keep people oppressed. And that's why I'm so excited to be here this morning around the vision of our new faith in Article II. Not updated since 1987 and passed by an overwhelming majority of 80% of the delegates that attended the June General Assembly, committing our 1,000 congregations to this movement. The beauty and the brilliance of our living tradition is that we know revelation is not sealed. And it's up to each generation of Unitarian Universalists to make this faith their own. Our newly adapted UUA Article II guides us into the future with the fast-trending acronym of JETPIG. Have you all heard about JETPIG? Some of you are nodding, maybe some of you are not. JETPIG is justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity with love at the center. We all said it. It took me a long time to remember the last 7 principles. So I love JETPIG, and you're starting to see cute little stuffed toy pigs dressed up as pilots with little aviator sunglasses and rainbow wings are popping up all over social media pages and RE programs across the UUA. There is a life-saving message in our liberal religion, and we can't be afraid to claim it, to own it, to embody it in our day-to-day actions. The Anti-Racism 8th Principle Project, founded in 2013 by Paula Call-Jones, planted the seeds to Article II. Did your congregation work with the 8th Principle Project? No. So some congregations did and some didn't. This was started in 2013, and the 8th principle, back when we had 7 principles, the 8th principle stated, "We, the member congregations of the UUA, covenant and affirm journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and institutions." Hundreds of UU congregations across the past 10 years voted, debated, passed the 8th principle, and that really was the groundwork for why the UUA decided that if we're going to have anti-racism woven into all of our principles, they realized that we needed something new. And so that sort of was where this was coming from. And of course, the elephant in the room is that most of our churches do not reflect the increasingly multicultural communities that surround us. If we don't dismantle the white supremacy culture rooted in every institution in America, ours included, we will not survive as a faith community. We UUs are so proud, and I'm proud, that many of our Unitarian Universalist ministers answered Dr. King's call to Selma in 1965. That march was led by a young 25-year-old John Lewis. I remember going to the National Civil Rights Museum in Atlanta last year, and I turned the corner and saw an image of James Reeb at the National Civil Rights Museum. I cried in that moment, seeing that James Reeb, a white Unitarian minister who was killed at Selma on March 11, 1965, at 38 years old. That's about how old I am today. Civil rights is in the DNA of what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. Collective liberation is who we are at our best. Reverend James Reeb was the lead minister of All Souls Unitarian Church in Washington, D.C. at the time. While hundreds and thousands of black deaths during this time period would go unnoticed by America, would go unnoticed by the media, it was Reeb's death as a white minister that is credited to turning the tide of public opinion and passing the historic Civil Rights Voting Act signed into law by President Johnson on August 6, 1965, 5 months after Reeb's death. It was Reverend Reeb's UU faith that demanded him to go to Selma in 1965 to risk everything. And yet, that was 1965. As a living tradition in 2024, what is still holding Unitarian Universalism back from becoming the anti-racist, multicultural, beloved community we know we are called to be? What are the Selmas of our time right now? In the book, Mistakes and Miracles, Congregations on the Road to Multiculturalism, UU minister Reverend Nancy Palmer Jones and Karen Lynn talk about this struggle. In their book, they highlight white minister Reverend Fred Muir, who was 30 years the minister of the Annapolis, Maryland church. Reverend Muir says this about our faith struggle with white supremacy culture. He says, Unitarian Universalist worship is still stuck in an old white Protestant model, an intellectual sermon, European white dead man music, and the choir singing. There's some folks, that's all they want. They never want to hear God. They never want to hear Jesus. They never want to hear Scripture. They never want to hear anything else. They come from that humanistic point of view, and that's all they want to hear. Unitarian Universalists of color often speak of the cost of being forced out of our more conservative cultural religious communities and what it means to join predominantly white UU congregations. There is often a spiritual pain for people of color on the margins who convert to a liberal religious identity, struggling to overcome its own legacy of white supremacy culture. Even though I can never go back, I sometimes miss that multi-ethnic Catholic church of my youth that was 1/3 Filipino, 1/3 Latinx, and 1/3 white, Irish, and Italian, a multicultural community. Rooted in a lot of homophobia, but it was a multicultural community. Queer Black minister Reverend Derek Jackson, the current UUA ministerial credentialing director, speaks to this pain as a person of color in this faith. I was a Universalist before I even knew there was a home for my beliefs, and yet I still go back to the spirit of the African Methodist Episcopal Church which I was raised. I often ache for the music that makes my heart soar, that brings the divine into the room during worship. I miss ministry that is grounded and speaks to my Black identity. I miss a message of hope that is grounded in an understanding of what it means to struggle. I miss all these things. And yet, Reverend Jackson says, and yet theologically I can be nowhere else than where I am. So I make my home here in Unitarian Universalism, as imperfect as it is, and find ways to stay grounded, to stay connected, to stay whole. Black woman minister Reverend Natalie Maxwell Finemore of the UU Church of Shelter Rock in New York talks about why she can't deny her love for our faith. She says, Shirley Chisholm, who ran for president, asked why she, as a Black woman in the 1970s, was running for president. You don't have a chance. Why are you doing that? And Shirley Chisholm said, because I am in love with an America that does not yet exist. And that's how Unitarian Universalism is also. I'm in love with the Unitarian Universalism that does not yet exist. It may never exist in my lifetime. I don't think it will exist in that of my children, but I can't deny my love for it. You know, wanting to be there in that struggle. Can people of color show up with our full and complex selves when we come to UU churches? Can we bring Jesus and God language and all our BIPOC gods and goddesses? Can we bring all our ancestors, our saints, and our angels? Can we bring our holy scriptures and rosary prayers taught to us by our grandmothers? Can we bring our mantras and chants in non-English languages that you may not understand? Can we sing Black spirituals without replacing every word we don't agree with? And can we sing with them with integrity as we honor their resistance against century-long legacy of white supremacy culture? Do we mean it when we say, "Come, come, whoever you are"? Would Yemaya, Queen of the Ocean, Goddess of the Yoruba diaspora, find a safe harbor among our blue boat waters? Would Our Lady of Guadalupe, so central to many Latinx communities, be welcome in our sanctuaries of reason and science? Would Santo Niño, the brown baby child Jesus of the Philippines, be able to pray the rosary on their knees in this church? Would Ganesh, the elephant-headed god and remover of obstacles, find too many obstacles among us? What does our collective liberation look like as Unitarian Universalists when privilege and oppression create barriers to building the beloved community here and now? How do we leave behind the old white Protestant model that no longer serves us and still dream for something new that does not yet exist? No, we are not isolated individuals on small, separate paths, but instead we are connected to a vast and powerful local, national, and global network of Unitarian Universalists willing to do the hard thing, willing to get into some good trouble, necessary trouble. Sierra Foothills Unitarian Universalists, who are you? Where is justice calling your name? The Selmas of the world are around us on every block. Who are you called to be in this time for these people? What is the legacy you leave behind as people of faith? The world needs a strong liberal religious voice at the table. Auburn needs a strong liberal religious voice at the table where all are worthy, where all are loved, where justice flows down like water, where we get ready for the many struggles ahead. If we make this faith our own, we will reach the other side changed. We will win our collective liberation together. No one left behind, no one forgotten. Love at the center. Amen.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Oh, my goodness. We're going to do our offering now. Every week, our church takes up an offering. It's good to remind ourselves from time to time that the offering is symbolic as well as practical. It is not a stale habit, but the opportunity to recommit to this spiritual home and to one another. We know that it is through pledges that we build our budget, fund our yearly programs and ministries of worship and religious education. We pay our staff and our professional religious leaders and finance the comfort and beauty of the buildings. Thank you, air conditioning. And we know that we could easily submit those pledge checks to the church at any convenient time. But we still pass the plate during our worship service to make a community expression of thanks for the blessing of abundance, to visibly bring in the harvest at this most cherished hour of our week. Our offering says that the act of giving is as essential to our spiritual well-being as anything else we do on Sunday morning. As part of our ethic of generosity, as most of you know, we split our collection plate with a local community organization aligned with our values. This month our partner is the Auburn Temporary Housing run by the Gathering Inn. You always have a choice to where your offerings go. Am I saying so? Oh, that was July. Now for August, I see Marsha out of the corner of my eye going, Growing Peace Camp, which is another wonderful institution was actually founded by one of our members many, many years ago. So we continue to provide funding for them. Anyway, you can say you want all of it to go to Peace Camp, you want none of it, you want it all to go to SFUU, but otherwise we split it 50-50. The morning offering will now be given and received in the spirit of appreciation and gratitude.
I always get anxious if it's like early or late. I'm late.
Thank you so much for your generosity. All right, we're going to sing our closing hymn. Please rise as you're willing and able. We're doing Building a New Way. If you would like to read out of the hymnal, it's the teal, number 1017. All right, and we also have the words up here.
Building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. Feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be All right, so since you all are really clappy already, let's keep on the clap motive. We close worship today in solidarity with the Unity clap, which was used by United Farm Workers, which began in the farms of California's Central Valley in 1965, when Filipino and Mexican farm workers, against all odds, saw past their differences their language, their religions, and their cultures and came together. The unity clap began in the fields and begins slow, like a heartbeat. Gradually it builds and builds and builds until we're in one collective clap and we call out, Isang Bagsak, which means one down. When one of us falls, we all fall. When one of us rises, we all rise. So we begin the community clap now.
Classic.
Amen.
All right, so as we leave, we'll say our closing words. As we go forth, may we carry the flame of love and peace with justice until we meet again.
I meet again. Blessed be.
Thank you, church.